I'm sharing life-changing homemaking secrets from Mooch the Messy today on the Daily Connoisseur. Hello everyone, Jennifer here, and welcome back to the Daily Connoisseur. I love to read, and I especially love classic children's literature, and I often will derive homemaking secrets from these books. If you are new to my channel, I'll leave a playlist down below, but I've already covered Little House on the Prairie, Farmer Boy, The Secret Garden, Anne of Green Gables, and also non-children's literature like Mrs. Beeton's book of household management. But today we are venturing back into the children's literature genre with an I Can Read book from the 70s, okay? So let me know if you've read this book, but I'm sure most of you have not. It is called Mooch the Messy, and it is by Marjorie Weinman Charmot. The pictures are by Ben Schechter. So this must have belonged to my sister because it was published in 1976. And we have so many books in our house, but sometimes I'll just go through a random bookshelf and find something new for us to read to the kids. So I found this book the other night and I read it to the boys, and the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking, oh my gosh, Life-Changing Homemaking Secrets from Mooch the Messy. Who knew that this little tiny book would have so much wisdom? So let's get started. Okay. So Mooch the Messy is about a rat named Mooch who lives in a hole under a hill in Boston, Massachusetts. And he's messy. And one day he gets a letter from his father that his father's going to visit him in about 4 days' time. So that's the premise of the book. His father is known for being neat, so now you have all the information you need to know. All right, so the first homemaking secret that I can derive from this is we can all become accustomed to our mess. And what have you become accustomed to? So on page 8 of the book, it says, "There is nothing better," said Mooch, "than to live in a hole under a hill with a piece of cheese and a drink and my own things around me." Mooch hung his clothes on doorknobs, lamps, pictures, and chairs. He kept his shoes on the table. So this gives you an idea of how messy Mooch is. He likes his things around him. And I think most of us can probably relate to this. I mean, we probably don't keep our shoes on the table, but we like our things around us. And I am like this for sure. I like to keep things within my sight, especially things that I use regularly. But does this verge on being messy and cluttered? That's the question to ask. Now, sometimes we are so comfortable in our surroundings and we think everything is fine, and all it takes is an outsider to come in and tell us this. This actually reminds me of something. I've been doing YouTube for so long, and when I first started doing videos, I showed my bathroom. This was back in Santa Monica, and it was the bathroom that we renovated, and I was just showing my skincare and makeup products that I liked to keep out on the vanity. And I remember I got a comment from someone saying, "That looks messy and cluttered," because I had all of my products out. And I thought, oh, I did not consider it to look like that, but somebody saw it and that was what they took from the situation. Now, from my perspective, I had very limited storage in that bathroom, so it was practical for me to have it out. But I actually appreciated this comment because it made me think, are there any drawers that I have where I could declutter some products and maybe keep some of these in a drawer? So sometimes we get used to our own mess and we don't even realize what it looks like to the outside world. Life-changing homemaking secret number 2. There is no greater motivator to cleaning up your space than having company come over. So in Mooch's case, his dad is coming over and he receives a letter that says, "Dear son Mooch, I am coming to visit you in 4 days. I look forward to seeing you and your hole. Love, Father." Okay, I'm sorry, but we have all experienced this. Whether it is a panicked last minute, you realize somebody's coming to stop by and you had no idea they were coming, or a bigger event like, let's say, family's coming to stay with you for Thanksgiving. Either way, there is no greater motivator to clean up your house than having somebody come over. And I think I even mentioned this in one of my books. If you want to create some tension and a deadline for yourself, invite people over for a dinner party next week. And that'll give you a whole week to get your house in order. This is like if you're feeling sluggish and stagnant and just don't feel like cleaning your home, okay? This is like the best way, trust me. It even happened recently. My daughter invited some people over and I said, all right then, let's all get to work. And she and I were having the vacuum out and we were just cleaning everything up, and it was actually quite fun. So it's just the best motivator. I maintain this and always will. Invite people over to your home and that will give you a deadline for getting it in order. So based on what I just told you, you would think that Mooch would be then thinking, okay, I have 4 days to get my home in order before my dad visits. But no, he doesn't. He doesn't clean his home at all. In fact, all he does is put stockings on his bedpost to count down the days, like an advent calendar, for when his dad comes. That's the only thing he does. So Mooch, it's like flies over his head. He does not realize that he should probably clean up for his father, who happens to be a neat person. Life-changing homemaking secret number 3 is that shaming and criticizing people over being messy never works. If you want them to be tidy, you must lead by example. All right, so Mooch's father arrives and he sees his messy place. And he does say one thing on page 16. He says, Mooch, he said, you keep a very sloppy hole. I like to see all my things, said Mooch. All right, so that is the only real piece of criticism that his father gives him. He doesn't come in there and say, wow, this is disgusting, this is terrible, clean up, and like most of us would want to do with our kids. And I have done this too, I'm not saying I haven't. But we can learn from Mooch's father here. He does make a comment, but that's it. He doesn't harp on it. And he doesn't, browbeat Mooch into thinking he needs to clean, because that never works. Like when you shame people into doing something, it just doesn't work long term, and there's like negative emotions associated with it. But the thing is that Mooch's father is known for being neat, and he has a reputation for this, and he leads by example. And this is what ultimately makes Mooch want to change. Life-changing homemaking secret number 4 is that we should gently lead by example with actionable tips. All right, so this is good for us parents when we are teaching our children to be tidy. So Mooch's father leads by example. He himself is a tidy man. He presents himself very well. He's wearing a suit. He always looks polished. And he lives in a polished home. We know this, okay? But he also gives actionable tips to his son. So rather than saying, why are your shoes everywhere, right? He actually helps Mooch clean up. So on page 22, it says, Mooch picked up the shoe and put it on a table. May I also choose where the shoe goes? Asked Mooch's father. See, he's being very gentle there. Yes, said Mooch. I choose the closet, said Mooch's father. I will take away 2 shoes, said Mooch. That will make you happier. Good boy, good rat, said his father. All right, so Mooch likes to leave his shoes in the middle of the doorway. Not good, because you could trip over them, right? So when Mooch asks his father where he thinks they should go, the father doesn't say, in the closet, you idiot. He just gently suggests, I think they should go in the closet. And it's very pleasant, okay? So Mooch doesn't feel like he's being lectured. It's just a nice conversation. So gently leading by example with actionable tips is definitely the way to go. Life-changing homemaking secret number 5 is that tidy people inspire others. So if you are a tidy person, you just being you, and just being who you are without telling people anything can inspire other people. We've all heard that saying, do as I say, not as I do. I'll never forget this. When we were living in Santa Monica and my children were in preschool, I remember one of the preschool teachers, we were having like a class party or something, and she was saying to the kids, please sit down while you're eating. But while she was saying that, she was eating and walking around. And she caught herself and she started laughing and she said, "Do as I say, not as I do." And we all the parents started laughing because we've all done this too, right? We tell our children to be tidy in a certain way when we ourselves are not tidy. So actions speak louder than words, okay? We can't say it and not do it. We have to do it, all right? So here on page 26, it says, "That night while his father slept, Mooch thought, 'I want to make father's visit perfect. I could start with my bed.' Mooch took crackers, socks, and cheese wrappers out of his bed. 'When father wakes up, he will see that I am a neat sleeper.'" So already Mooch is thinking, okay, it's starting to sink in. My dad is a neat person and I love him. So I want to make him feel comfortable in my home. I'm going to start cleaning up. So just because Mooch's father is a neat person, that alone has inspired Mooch to be neater. And if you are like, "Jennifer, I'm watching this because I'm a messy person." Well, I think that this can inspire you too, because I actually am a messy person as well. And so reading about this and knowing that if I am neat and tidy in my habits, that I can inspire other people, that is enough to motivate me to do better in that area. Life-changing homemaking secret number 6. Pay attention to the negative consequences that can come from your home for inspired change. All right, what do I mean here? Well, Mooch doesn't like to dust because he likes to write messages in his dust. It's something that he enjoys. However, Mooch's father starts sneezing. This is a negative consequence. And so Mooch takes this into consideration here on page 39. Mooch crawled into bed. He began to feel sad. "Dust makes father sneeze," said Mooch, "so I will get rid of my dust." Mooch crawled out of bed. "Goodbye, dust messages," said Mooch, "and father will feel much better if I clean everything." All right, so he noticed that his dad is sneezing. He loves his dad. He doesn't want him to sneeze, so it's time to change, okay? And I feel like we've all had this in our house where a negative consequence arises. Maybe somebody brought food up to their room and they forgot to bring it down to the kitchen, and ants came into the room, okay? That's like a terrible situation. So that might inspire someone to think, maybe I shouldn't bring food to my room at all. Or if I do, maybe I should immediately take it away. So let these natural consequences shift you into being more neat and tidy. Another example of this would be, let's say you let the laundry back up too much and you try to overfill the washing machine, and then the washing machine breaks because of this, or there's like an overflow of water or something like that, right? That's another consequence. So once things start getting really bad, it's time for us to pay attention to it and to make adjustments. Now, Mooch is so inspired to change that he actually cleans the entire apartment, to the point where his father wakes up and thinks that they have been robbed. So on page 46, "Wake up, Mooch, wake up. You have been robbed. Somebody has stolen everything. Your shoes and sheets and towels and belts, everything that was piled, dumped, draped, or dropped. They even took your dust messages." "No, father," said Mooch, "I did it. I wanted to shout out, 'Neat, neat, hooray.'" Okay, so Mooch has finally changed, okay? And he has cleaned his house. His father is so shocked, he thinks that they have been robbed. People can change. That is the takeaway from this. And you will see this happen in your children. Your children might be like so messy and you're thinking they are never ever going to become neat, okay? But most children, from my experience, do become neat. And I think of myself, I was so messy too as a kid. I even have messy tendencies, of course, as an adult as well. But there is some point, whether it's when they live in your home or when they go have their own home, people come over, whatever it is, there is a point where that turns and you can then become a neat person. Okay, so I found that to be encouraging. Life-changing homemaking tip number 7 is that we must find the balance between individuality and social consideration. All right, so there is a twist at the end of the book, and I'm sorry for the spoiler alert, but Mooch does not maintain his neat ways after his father leaves. So you would think that, especially with a children's book, that the happy ending would be that Mooch becomes a neat person for the rest of his life and he's completely reformed. But no, actually, after his father leaves, Mooch feels a little relieved and he begins to bring his stuff back out like it used to be. But I would say that he is slightly reformed because I don't believe that it is as messy as it used to be before his dad came. So I think that this brings up something important, and it's on the back of the book here. It says, can he make his father feel welcome and please himself too? So it is also important that we don't abandon ourselves in the pursuit to have a neat and tidy space. What is neat and tidy to you? That is what matters. Now, when we have guests over, we do need to make sure, of course, that they feel welcome and that they feel comfortable and we do things for them. At the same time, we do not want such a rigid cleaning routine that we ourselves cannot relax in our own home if everything isn't perfect, okay? I think that that's definitely where the individuality comes in. For example, we all have our levels. I have books everywhere. I've said this before, we do have bookshelves, but I have more books than can fit in any of our bookshelves. I have them everywhere. It might look messy to other people, but I like it and it makes me happy. That's my individuality. I'm okay with it. I have stacks of books everywhere, okay? And that's how I feel comfortable. So I'm not going to take out all the books in my home in order to appear like a minimalist or appear like I'm neat and tidy and everything is picture perfect. That's one example. And you might have one too. Maybe you have pets and you have pet accoutrement everywhere, or you have kids and you have toys in certain rooms. We often will have toys in our living room and they stay there for days sometimes because they continue to play with them. So how do we balance individuality and our own comfort and pleasing ourselves with social considerations and not like verging into hazardous tips or hoarding or, you know, really bad cleanliness situations, okay? I think there's a fine balance and that we should all be a little more relaxed maybe with our routines so that we can relax and just enjoy our homes as they are. So overall, this is such a charming children's book. It does show that love is a great motivator. Mooch loves his dad. His dad is neat and tidy, and he does inspire Mooch. Maybe not completely and fully, but enough that he makes significant change, but also finds his own individuality in the process. See how much you can derive from a little tiny vintage children's book? It's pretty amazing. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this, and if you would like to see more in my life-changing homemaking secrets, be sure to give this video a thumbs up so that I know that you like it. I have a few ideas for upcoming books that I would like to discuss. Also, my new book, The Daily Connoisseur's Guide to Living Well at Home, comes out on November 18th of this year. You can pre-order it down below, and my book is full of homemaking inspiration that I think you will really love. So thank you so much for your support with that. All right, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this video and our discussion of Mooch the Messy. In the meantime, I hope that you keep calm and remain classy, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.